welcome to episode 12. 12 deep of the Can You Geek podcast.
And the final part of our little Star Wars movie review trilogy.
Yes.
Pretty exciting, Steve.
I know.
Pretty exciting.
It does mean we have to come up with other content, though.
Oh, shoot. We have to be creative.
I know. We went 9 episodes of being creative, and then we're like, hey, let's do 3 of Star Wars, and completely lost everything creative.
However, the amount of time it took to put into watching movies beforehand, that's the real kicker.
Yes. So for those that don't know, I am Steve, and this is Errane. Just get those out of the way.
Hello.
And so, yeah. Anything to catch up on this week?
We are doing our boy's room. So I'm currently doing a mural for him. And it's going to be a Death Star in the sky off of Endor.
Yes, you sent me your concept art. It's going to be awesome.
Just found the picture. So we're totally taking it from somebody else who shared it. I don't think I'm going to be able to give it too much originality from it because it's the Death Star and it's a simplistic piece, but I think I might add some X-Wings, maybe a Star Destroyer, just if I get carried away with it. I'm taping it has been killing my back, but it's been fun. Yeah, besides that,
you'll get it.
Yeah, besides that, nothing new, man. You?
Took my son to watch a movie. We were supposed to watch Dark Phoenix. But I gave him the option of changing his mind, and he changed it, which from the sounds of the reviews for Dark Phoenix, I'm glad we didn't watch it.
You guys saw Godzilla, huh?
We went and saw Godzilla, and absolutely loved it. Honestly, it is worth going to watch.
I have heard so many good things, Jess, and I want to see it real bad.
Yeah, if you get time, go watch it.
Definitely.
All right, since we're going to have lots to talk about in this episode, so let's start off with your oops, because I know you had a few from last episode.
Yeah, so you know that I have a bad memory. I have a bad memory, Steve, and I thought that I could depend on my memory last episode because I went on vacation and we forgot our Blu-rays here and we couldn't find a way to watch Rogue One and episode 4, 5, and 6. So I just blatantly went off my memory. Well, when we came back, our episode had already released and I'm listening to it and I'm just sitting there yelling at myself. And then Jess is like, hey, you were wrong here. And I just wanted to correct a couple of those things. So in rewatching, I did rewatch them. I've rewatched all the movies now. Unfortunately, I didn't get to rewatch 7 and 8 with Jess. So that's kind of a bummer. But
you'll watch it with her. I already know that.
Yeah, we're going to rewatch them again just so she can see them. But I found that I might have been a little harsh about episode 4. I also found that I said Yoda dies in Empire, but he actually dies in Return of the Jedi, so I screwed that up. I think I said The Last Jedi a whole lot in one part of the episode, but then corrected myself to Return of the Jedi. I'm sorry that I confused those a lot. I also feel like in my bit of harshness, and maybe I'm getting soft, but I found that I kind of, after rewatching Solo and loving all the nostalgia and the things that brings, and then watching 4, 5, and 6, I think I might like Han Solo, which is a lot for me to say. Anybody who knows me knows I've bashed Han for a very long time. I still stand by Luke Skywalker not really being my favorite character, but I did find that I enjoyed Han, and in rewatching 7, I found that I got choked up when Han died. So it was kind of weird to see that moment.
It's definitely emotional.
And then the other big one is I claimed that I wanted C-3PO to be original to Anakin, and not only did A New Hope screw me over in believing that in the very beginning scene. We're talking opener scene. Darth Vader comes into the ship where Leia is kept, right? Because that's where you end in Rogue One. Immediately, Darth Vader follows that escaped ship to get to Leia because she has the plans for the Death Star. And I said that I wanted C-3PO to be original to Anakin because I said that in episode 1, when they gas Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, that you see that little service droid, the silver one that looks just like C-3PO, just silver. Well, episode 4 not only has a copy of C-3PO as like a service droid that's silver, but episode 5, Empire also has the exact same one when they get to Cloud City. So I am sorry that I am dumb and my memory did not suit me well. I clearly was off a little bit. Yoda, I remembered him being so silly, and I've watched Empire I don't know how many times, and I always just the silly parts of Yoda and like the wisdom he gives. I think I still stand by my analyzation of kind of where he's at, and I'm going to actually tie that into Luke for talking about The Last Jedi here in a bit. And then the other thing was talking about how I felt about some of the movies and kind of timelines and stuff. It did just feel that I might have been just a little off. But yeah, the C-3PO one was the big fact piece that I was way wrong about. And Jess looks at me and she goes, "You have to fix that." And I was like, "Yeah, I might have messed that up just a little.
Maybe a little.
I might have just a smidge off on that." So
and
here
then
I am
didn't correct
admitting
you.
I was wrong. Yeah, well, and so I was wrong and I screwed up. So here we are and moving on. I'm sorry.
Yep. All right, so let's go straight into it then. Episode 7.
Yeah, so that's The Force Awakens, man. Yeah, that was a movie to truly get excited about.
Yes, it was. It had all this promise. I remember when it was announced, there was I don't even know how to, like, a very reserved excitement at the time because of how bad the first 3 movies were.
And by that you mean
episodes 1, 2,
it's
3.
so
yes.
hard to talk about.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know.
and it's so tough to talk about it because first 3. I mean, if when we're discussing it chronologically,
The Anakin trilogy.
Yes, yeah, right. Where Anakin's the full focus. Yeah, and
Yeah.
episodes 1, 2, and 3, they were, and that was still under Lucas. So this was the first time we get to see Disney take the reins, and they threw J.J. Abrams in, who by the time had made at least one of the Star Trek movies.
And I think Transformers.
No, I thought that was Michael Bay.
That was Michael Bay. Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is not going to be the start of a good episode. I can tell already.
I was about to say, Michael Bay's all about explosions. J.J. Abrams loves lens flare. Okay?
Yes, that's what it is.
So, but he had done Star Trek, and I think that was pretty well received. I don't remember if he had done the second Star Trek movie yet by the time he got given episode 7, but, and I don't really think it's relevant to look it up, but it was strange to see a director go, because Star Trek and Star Wars, that's a big, like, geek warish kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, people try to upset me because I've never been a big Star Trek guy, but I started watching The Next Generation, I think it was, where it's it's not Kirk, it's Picard, right? And I actually, man, I enjoyed it. I from what I got to, I think I finished season 1, and I didn't hate it. It held up for as old as it is, man. I think that stuff started in like the 80s.
Might have been the 90s.
Okay.
But yeah, no, Next Generation was one of my TV shows, one of my favorite TV shows. So
yeah, it's good, man. I enjoyed it. And what happened was I was playing this Star Trek app game, and I was in the top alliance or guild or whatever in the thing, but then they started paying a lot of money, and I didn't, because I didn't have money to pay on that game. But one of the guys was like, "Yeah, you should watch The Next Generation. You shouldn't watch the original with William Shatner because it's maybe a little too campy, a little too old. It doesn't date well." But he's like, "The Next Generation holds up pretty good." And I started watching it, and I was entertained. I don't remember why I got off the show. It wasn't because I wasn't enjoying it. I think that I got sidetracked by some other show that probably released a new season or something like that. Right now, I'm just rewatching Bob's Burgers for the 3rd or 4th time because I love that show so much. But
Jessica Jones just came out, by the way.
Oh, I should check that out.
I haven't watched it yet, but it just came out, so I gotta.
I should definitely check on that because I liked that show. It's good. But yeah, so episode 7, it's an exciting moment, right? We're all seeing these trailers come out, and they teased us with them. And I remember being at my uncle's house, and he was like, "You haven't seen the episode 7 trailer?" I was like, "No, man, I haven't watched it." And at the time, Jess and I used to try to wait on each other to see trailers and things, but it got difficult because we weren't living together. Yeah. And he had this amazing surround sound setup. And he goes and he just starts it, and we all watch it. I think we watched it 3, 4, or 5 times in a row, just re-watching this trailer, right?
Just absorbing.
Yeah, and you get to see Rey, and you get to see the X-Wings, and you get to see all this cool stuff in that trailer, and it was something to behold. I mean, it was exciting. It looked beautiful, and you see that wrecked Imperial, like, Star Destroyer, right? And you see just, like, this amazing landscaping piece and just interesting characters. You see Finn get shown in the in the ship, and like, or when his helmet's off or whatever, and like him freaking out, or I think he might have been in the sand, and like just you get to see these characters, and you're like, who are they? What are they doing in the story? What's happening? And J.J. Abrams was a pretty well trusted guy to do it, and I think everybody was excited. And then the movie came out, right? And then we all saw it, and I walked out of that movie,
and then we watched it. Sounds so ominous.
And it's funny because with Star Wars, really, I mean, you think about 4, 5, and 6, and for us, we were raised on those movies, right? Like they were things that had happened before us or right at our birth, and so these movies weren't something that we really comprehended in their infancy, right? Well,
yeah, not in the inception.
Right? Yeah, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. So, like, it was our family who brought this to us, right? This was people who influenced Star Wars into our life. For me, it was my uncle, right? And he showed me these movies, and I'd watch them. And Empire specifically, I just watched over and over and over as a kid. And, you know, you grow up loving these movies. And I mentioned before about nostalgia just being this amazing drug, essentially, this amazing intoxicating feeling that brings about just joy to something, you know, your childhood. And as a kid, like, A New Hope was still just kind of boring. But as an adult, I kind of enjoyed watching A New Hope more than I used to. And so when you get to episode 7, right, we saw 1, 2, and 3 as like middle school, high school age.
Yep.
Right.
I just graduated because I was working at the movie theater. So yeah.
Yeah. And the internet really started to become a thing. And you just got this visceral, angry, soul gashing hate for these movies. And as a kid, right, it was hard to understand kind of what they were. And as we've gotten older, we see kind of what they were talking about and what things they didn't like. And I think a lot of that's healed a little bit. And so now that it had healed enough and Disney had taken over, we get episode 7, it happens, and people see it, and it gets a lot of mixed reviews. But I think overall, Force Awakens was pretty positively received.
Yeah. There is some... I did see some bad reviews online for it, but yeah, I think in general it's been a pretty positive response to it because people were really wanting to get away from the CGI of episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, that was important. And when Lucas remastered, quote unquote, episodes 4, 5, and 6, and again, I stand by this. Rewatching those movies, seeing the inserted, crappy, quote-unquote, remastered work where they insert all these CGI characters, it just ruined it. Like, it didn't feel the same. And then you get to episode 7, man. Whew.
Yeah.
It was a feeling. Like, you felt like you were in the original Star Wars again. Like, you felt like you were back in that universe where you belonged, and you felt like everything just felt... It gave you a nostalgic feeling, and that's why I brought that up, because watching episode 7 felt nostalgic, but it was brand new.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like when you see the Millennium Falcon, right, you're introduced to Poe and Finn right off the bat, and you know, you get BB-8 and you see them there, and Kylo comes and he stops a bullet, like you're a laser, like blaster.
Yeah, the blaster bullet.
Yeah, and you look at this guy and you're like, holy crap, this dude is insane. And his get-up looked amazing. He looked like the dark side. Like, I felt like we got that villain, and it felt like we got somebody that we could truly desire and love as the villain piece, right? We got our new Vader, and, you know...
He felt way more powerful than Vader.
And he did, right?
Just that first opening scene, it was like... He is the ultimate bad. Like,
right.
Nothing was going to get more powerful.
Yeah, exactly. He felt strong. He felt like he was going to do something. Like, Poe shoots at him, he stops the beam in like midair, and like, I mean, even Poe checks it out as he's walking by, like, what the hell is happening? And you felt like you got it. And that's something that I did want to say. I wanted to make sure I pointed this out because we didn't. And since I rewatched them after the episode recorded, I love the scene, and this is kind of what gives you like that love of Rogue One. One thing I think they did very well was Vader, and there's that scene when he's walking through the ship before, you know, when they're trying to pass the plans and get him through, and he's just like force people into the ceiling. He's just blocking everything with his saber, and it's just so awesome. And honestly, I got that feeling with Kylo. Like, I was like, holy crap, this dude is, this is going to be good, right? And so you get these characters, and then, you know, you get on Jeddah, where BB-8 now is, you know, Finn and Poe have crashed, and you don't see Poe again, and, you know, Finn's kind of stuck there. And you got, like, this bromance immediately with those characters. It was super fun. But then you see the Millennium Falcon after they go through all their stuff. Well, even just seeing Rey, like, rummaging through the old... Like, she's sitting next to an AT-AT. She puts an old Republic fighter helmet on. Like, there was so many cool, nostalgic feeling moments.
Yeah, even before like any of that even happened, when she was first just scavenging on the destroyer.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah.
When she's scavenging and then she sits on that AT-AT after she's gotten her kind of due for the day before she meets BB-8. Right.
Before she meets BB-8, when you don't even know, like, it's Rey at first. It's just looks like another sand person scavenging the ship, and then she pulls her thing off, and it's like, oh, that's her.
Yeah, right. Because you'd seen her in the trailer. So to see her kind of like masked up, and she had those cool goggles on, and honestly, she looked awesome. Like, it just looked cool. Like, it was a really neat get up, and it fit them. It fit her environment, right?
Completely.
Like, yeah, and it was so neat. And I mean, we haven't even gotten past the first like 10, 20 minutes of the movie, and you know, and it's not like we're trying to do a play by play, but I think that's important as far as like of what you embraced in what was done right with The Force Awakens.
Yes.
I think that JJ captured and embraced nostalgia, but possibly to a fault.
Yes, because he went full realistic effects. So they built massive
well, no, I don't mean that. I think that was a good thing. I'm talking about the fact that he went nostalgia to the point of people felt like he redid the movie.
Yes.
He like basically rewrote A New Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of getting there slowly.
Sorry.
No. I was going to say, for all of the love I have for this movie, I do have a couple really big stickling points.
Ooh, talk to me, Steve. What are your stickling points?
So,
I like the word stickling.
I know.
Stickling.
It's very stickling. It's summer. You know, you got to come up with new words.
Yeah, it's stickling.
So the first one was, the whole...
Call the episode The Stickling. That's what you should do, the stickling.
The new stickling.
I can't get off the stickling. I like the stickling. What's your stickling, Steve? Oh, it's stickling,
God.
Steve.
I'm never going to live this down.
No, you're the stickling, the great stickling.
So it was very much the nostalgic feeling of this was just A New Hope with new characters was the first thing that really got me.
Really? Okay. Tell me more. Why? Why did that bother you?
Well, I liked the nostalgic feeling. I liked the big sets, actual built, traditional effects. I loved all of that. It brought out that good kind of emotion. I didn't think they needed to go as much. Now I can't struggle getting the words out. As much into the tone. I think that's why it felt like it was just A New Hope over again. It was that tone of like discovering who this person was and them in the Force, and it felt forced. Which I don't think it needed to. It was still really good and I enjoyed it, but it just, for some reason, it had that this was a forced sort of movement that they were trying to put on people.
So here's what I feel. And I think that you're on to something in a way. I don't agree with you because I very much enjoyed this movie. I walked out of the theater very, very happy. I'm not saying that you didn't.
Oh, no. When I watched it in the theater, I walked out super enjoying the movie. It's watching it back again.
Watched it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of see those comments and what they're like, the validity in seeing that it's kind of a New Hope remake.
Just because I watched A New Hope so close to watching this, I think is where, because it was fresh in my mind again. Because, I mean, we've watched... what is it, 11 movies, so that's 2 hours each, so we're sitting at like 26 hours of Star Wars in the last 3 weeks. it's pretty ingrained in my brain.
So I didn't get that. Even rewatching it, I see how people make the connection, and it's a fair connection. I'm not hating on the connection. I felt like, so when you talk about A New Hope, I think what JJ did was he took the knowledge of knowing how bad episodes 1, 2, and 3 were received, and definitely made a safe movie. I did feel like it was a safe movie, and I think that a lot of the remnants of, they even show a Death Star and they're like, oh, and this is the Starkiller base, right? Like it's a planet. And it's funny. We talked about it with Marvel and how, like, sometimes I look at things as like comic book logic.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Star Wars universe, you see that the Starkiller base is sucking up the sun to then shoot a beam weapon, and I just
it powers everything. Yeah, okay, it's a little out there, but
so you're on a planet, and your planet. I don't think Starkiller base moves. I don't think it can, like, it's a planet. Is it in orbit? Like, it sucks up the sun.
They never showed it move, but it was like just killing killing entire systems.
And their whole timeline. Like, I mean, it beat up when it beat the Republic, right? When it fired its first ray that split into like 5 different ones. And
it took out like 7 planets.
And they see it, and then they get there, and they're now on the planet, and their timeline, before it's all official, is when the sun goes out. It's like a light bulb now.
Yeah. And
so that was hard to watch, and but like I said, I chalked it to like that. It's Star Wars logic. You know what I mean? This is Star Wars, and it's a fun thing. It's a fun debate to have with people. And I don't think they have it much anymore, but maybe there's still people out there that claim Star Wars is a sci-fi film. It is very much not a sci-fi film. Star Trek is sci-fi.
Yeah.
Star Wars is fantasy. It's a space opera. Yes, there is sci-fi elements to the movies and the story, but it is a space opera. It's a fantasy movie. So
it's like mind, Dune. Dune is probably the closest in my brain anyways, the closest comparable where it's not based on tech and like just super crazy fiction. It's just another world that happens to be in space.
I guess it's because I see it as just a fantasy story and a space opera story that they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I don't really criticize it because I'm not looking for logic in their world, I guess. And it's just, I just want a fun story and I want to enjoy it, which I think gets to the heart of what George Lucas wanted.
Yes,
because despite people's hate or love for Star Wars, all of it came from George Lucas's original creation of this moment, and it's gotten a lot bigger than him. But I think that they embrace that. And so, whereas I agree that I see your point in it being a New Hope remake, and other people who've made that point, I do feel like it was a safe movie, and I think it was a smart move on JJ's part.
Yeah. So then my second point that I had issue with, which I want to hear your thought on. How did that random stormtrooper getting shot and then the blood being smeared on Finn's face make him all of a sudden wake up and completely not want to be a part of the First Order anymore?
So I think he mentions later in the movie that was his first official mission.
I think so. But I mean, he'd been around it for, like, you would think he's been around it for so long, like quitting wasn't probably an option at any point. And so why now all of a sudden it wasn't even meeting Poe. It was seeing the villagers like get shot that all of it randomly is like, oh, okay. No, yeah, I don't want this life.
Now, if you think about that though, and here's my opinion on it. Finn worked, he claimed, later he talks about how he worked. He was sanitation, right?
Yeah. So
what I'm assuming is, he finally got called up. So what I'm thinking is, even though you're a janitor, honestly, and as a submariner, we were the janitors of the submarine, right? We didn't have a special rate of cleaner. Nope. The entire boat would have your different areas, and you clean those areas. Ours was TG Lubo Bay. And so the RC div would go down, and we'd get in the bilge, and we'd clean around the turbine generators, we'd clean the bilge and all this stuff. Like, that was our job. We cleaned stuff. So I kind of see Finn as that. Like, yeah, his primary duty, I guess, it's a big enough grouping, and they said that they force him from birth. I guess he just, he was taught combat. He was taught how to be a stormtrooper, but his primary duty was sanitation, right? But I think that, he just got called up on a mission, and it was his very first mission. And when you're working sanitation, we're at whatever base you're in, maybe you're not seeing the things they're doing. But the moment on Jeddah when he got there and he saw it in action, and he sees these people just being slaughtered for nothing, I think that there was a something that awakened in him, right? They call it the Force Awakens, and I get that that's primarily around like Rey and eventually Skywalker, but because he took himself away from the Force or whatever. But like I see it in Poe, right? Because he learns eventually in The Last Jedi how to be a leader rather than just a hero, and I think that something awakens in Finn in that moment in the movie where he's not just a follower, he wants to be something more. And at that time, a coward, right? Because his only goal is just to get away. Throughout the entire movie, his only goal is to just run as fast as he can. But then he builds this relationship with Rey, and it becomes something more. And he finds Han and Chewie, and like he finds something greater than himself to worth fighting for. But I think in the very beginning, he's a guy from sanitation who finally got called up to action, and he saw the bloodshed. He saw the massacre. And I think that just for him, the programming just didn't work, right? And they said, when you talk about Phasma's character, and she's like, his reprogramming was successful, and we didn't see any issues. And
it was his first
right. But I mean, again, I think later he says it's his first mission, so there really was an opportunity before that. He just cleaned, he mopped the floors. It
is possible I missed that it was his first mission. It just seemed like there was no. It just happened. Like it just seemed weird.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and that would be my response to it. That's how I think. I think that's how that kind of went down, and even so, maybe every person has their moment. And most of these stormtroopers, I mean, honestly, some of them just aren't brave enough to do it. And I know it was Finn being brave enough to be a coward, essentially, and run. Yeah. But he saw an opportunity when he found Poe was there, and he's like, okay, I need a pilot, right? And Poe jokes, he's like, you need a pilot. He's like, yeah, I need a pilot. I need somebody who can fly me away. Right, I need this, and that's when that bromance starts. So that's how I feel about it. I did have one complaint, and there was a reason I did. So as you know, my favorite thing in all stories is the villain. I love good villains. Kylo Ren was the biggest disappointment for me in The Force Awakens. I walked out of that movie and I was like, wow, I really loved Kylo, and then I hated Kylo.
About halfway through the movie, he turns into
like a whiny little rager. Yeah, he basically he's like, I don't know. And he didn't
need to. Like they didn't need to with his character. They could have completely built his entire story arc without having him turn into a whiny rage monster.
Well, and here's the thing. So a lot of people, and there's been a lot of argument against me on this to talk about Kylo and where he's at. Just pretend The Last Jedi doesn't exist yet. These were the conversations I was having before The Last Jedi. So before The Last Jedi comes out, I would argue with people all the time. It's like he was whiny and unnecessarily unhinged. And the comments I would get, right, because we don't know the story with what happened with him and Luke at the temple. Yeah. All we know is that he was part of the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
Right? That he was trained by not only Luke, but also Snoke.
Yep.
And that he hadn't completed his training, but he was in training with the dark side, but at the very least he had been trained by Luke. So he's in tune with the Force. When you see a character introduced to you, and the very first use of the Force is him stopping a blaster shot in midair, which has never been seen before, I think somebody who's got themselves in pretty good control. And you can call it just raw power. I don't care. Raw power doesn't mean that he's so in tune that he can do that. I've never seen a Jedi or a Sith do that.
It's not even that he just stopped it and it stayed there for a little bit. It stayed there the entire time he was questioning Poe and told them to take him on the ship. Until they left, it then moved.
Yes, so he was able to maintain his concentration, his focus with the Force, to maintain that there while also losing his crap with a Republic pilot who clearly he had a lot of emotion of finding the map, right?
Yeah.
He wanted that information. And you introduce that kind of character to me, I'm sorry, I get excited, and my expectations go way up.
Yeah, in the first 10 minutes, it's like I said, like right at the beginning of this episode, I thought he was going to be the most powerful, evil person ever to exist in this universe, and I got excited.
And I got very, very excited. And it is clear that he's very much with the Force. I don't see that guy. Like, when Vader got upset or disappointed, he just force choked people to death. I'm into that. Like, I loved that.
Throw him into walls
Yeah. Taking your lightsaber and just slashing up a computer on your ship makes no sense to me. I thought it was an unnecessary outlash. If he would have taken it to the messenger and like chopped them in half, I think I would have loved that more. Just like, because it's like the same version of killing. It's just, instead of force choking him, he chopped him in half. But him just unleashing hell on a computer, like, and then calmly telling the guy, like he's over it, like that's all he needed to get out of the system. I just needed
to do this little rage session.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It just set me the wrong way. And honestly, from that point
just before
forward,
we get too far down the rabbit's holes and into other stuff, I'm going to stop you from having an error in the next episode. The planet was Jakku, not
Jakku.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You were saying like Jakar or something?
Jeddah. I was saying Jeddah, which I think is from Rogue One.
I think you're right. So that's why I just wanted to.
Thank you. Yeah. Jakku. Thank you. Yeah. It's funny. I just watched it today. This is how bad my memory is. I just watched 7 and 8 both today before we recorded.
And I watched
I've already
8,
forgotten.
Just before.
Yeah. So Jakku. Yes, thank you. Jakku. So not Jeddah. I think Jeddah. God, where did I get Jeddah? It doesn't matter. Jakku.
Jakku, yeah.
Yeah. So Jakku. Yeah. Oh my God. So bad. I appreciate that. So yeah,
was there anything else I hated in episode 7?
That was my only complaint. Really, with 7, I loved all the characters and what they were doing. I enjoyed Han Solo. When he died, it didn't really choke me up as much as it did other people because I had a hate for Han Solo. Yeah. It wasn't until I watched the movie now and kind of watched. And so I
think it was more Chewie's reaction that choked me up than anything.
And that was fair, but I'm saying I think Solo brought me to love Han Solo more. And so I give credit to the Solo movie, whereas people might not have liked it or whatever. I think that Solo was the reason I now have seen all of his story, not in complete in-depthness, but I've seen all of his story from beginning to end. I loved the characters. I loved them all. I thought
before we get off episode 7 and move into episode 8, it's going to tie into episode 8 because it's one of my issues with episode 8 as well. How do you feel about Rey's being able to use the Force without any training whatsoever?
Okay, so let's talk about that. I forgot that was a big hate, and I personally did walk away with some issue with that, but I have since then, and especially today after rewatching, I've come to a different feeling on that. So, when you talk about raw potential of the Force, and you talk about the ability to move stuff and things like that, with Rey specifically, I think that at that moment, when you talk, and I want to say I could be completely wrong about this, but then again, Snoke talks about it a little bit in 8. But when the Force is a living thing, it's very strong within those that are, strong in the Force, sensitive to the Force. When you talk about the Sith, they came up with the rule of 2 because they wanted more power in the dark side, right?
Yeah.
So now take Luke, who is the strongest Jedi of all time, and he, as we find out in episode 8, is cut off from the Force. Now, I understand that we didn't know that at the time that we watched Force Awakens. Yeah. But either way, even if you knew Luke was alive, you have Luke and Leia, both in tune with the Force on the light side. We have nobody else who even knows they're Force sensitive that we know about, right? And with that knowledge, if you think about it, that means that it's probably more powerful in those that are sensitive to the Force and are using it. So the way I see it with Rey, the ability to just grab a lightsaber from afar, if you think about Luke when he's on Hoth, right?
Yeah. When he's first starting his training, yep.
No, he hadn't started.
Oh, no,
remember,
yes.
He hasn't gone to Yoda on Dagobah yet.
It's just the brief Obi-Wan training. Yeah.
And which is nothing. What did Obi-Wan taught him on the ship? He was on the Millennium Falcon.
He was just training him how to use a lightsaber. It was pretty much
how to feel the Force,
yeah.
right? Okay, so all Luke got that we saw was how to feel the Force, how to feel it, just in your feelings, how to feel it. When he fights the Wampa, now given, he got that little bit of time with Obi-Wan, I'll give you that. But when he's fighting oh god, it's a Wampa, right? I think it's a Wampa, the big snow monster, because the Tauntauns are what they're riding. I believe it's the Wampa,
and that's what he puts him in as the.
But the way he kills the Wampa or hurts the Wampa, he chops off his arm, is by force calling his lightsaber to him.
Yes,
that's before he trained with Yoda, man.
That is true. Actually, you are correct.
So in seeing that, Rey was told that she was in tune with the Force.
It wasn't the fact that she was able to do it. It's the fact that she outpowered Kylo when Kylo was bringing it to him.
Okay,
and
so
she pulled it out of... She had enough force attunement to be able to overpower this massively powerful guy.
Now, how much did she really do, though? She outfought him with lightsabers. She didn't use the Force to do that.
No, the actual fight scene with the lightsabers, no, that's just her fight attunement from being on Jakku.
I'm talking about when he's interrogating her?
No, so when they're on, I want to say it's Starkiller Base, and she has the lightsaber, and they're fighting in the forest, and it gets knocked down, he starts to call it to him, and it flies right past him into her hand. And then the Jedi thing turns on because she was powerful enough to overpower him with zero training to call it to her past him. And that was where I was like, he's supposed to, everything you built up, everything about how powerful he was in that first 5 minutes. And all of a sudden this complete novice, which I get, they're trying to show how powerful she's going to be. That seemed, for lack of a better word, forced.
They kind of build it, though.
They do.
Because she's in tune with that saber.
She is. And they don't explain why yet, but...
Well, exactly, right? So as far as we know, Rey, and this kind of gets said, Nate, this is carryover, but, Rey is nothing. Like, she comes from nobody, right? Nobody special.
That we know of. She's just a
powerful force. Well, yeah, but she's just a powerful force wielder, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about my comment before about the light side, and it's desperate to fix
there's
itself,
nobody right now,
there's always balance. And Snoke mentions it later in episode 8. He talks about whereas the dark rises, so does the light. Well, what's even better about this is in the Clone Wars series, and I know this is kind of giving stuff away because you haven't seen it all yet. But
I'm still going to watch it, so...
The Clone Wars series has 2 episodes that deal with what we're just talking about. One is talking about the balance of the light and the dark side. There's this cool place that Ahsoka Tano, Anakin, and Obi-Wan end up that's like a different realm. And you see Anakin's future. It shows him become Vader. He sees it. He sees his own future. He sees what he becomes, and he chooses to leave anyway. But this guy has a daughter and a son. The daughter is pure light. The son is pure dark. And he knows this. This is the balance. So this place is the core of the balance of the living force. It's a really, really cool episode. It's very in-depth. And the whole time they're trying to, because they know Anakin is the chosen one. So they're trying to get him on their side. The dark side specifically is really trying to win him over. Well, so that kind of explains the balance in the Force, right? Where when the dark side is getting stronger, the light side rises to oppose it. The other one is when it talks about how they build their lightsabers. So one thing that the movies never do is truly show you. I mean, Luke just ends up with a green saber. So just builds his own friggin' green lightsaber. So it doesn't talk about the kyber crystal and where he, his attunement with that and where it comes from. And there's also some stuff that I don't think's canon anymore that talks about the different stances and why he would go from blue, which was, his father's lightsaber, to the more, which is also Obi-Wan's color, to green, which is also Yoda and Ahsoka. And anyway, so that episode talks about the calling of the kyber crystals. So what they do is they take all the younglings, and part of completing their training, which, by the way, when you see that episode, look at the little Wookiee Jedi youngling And the lightsaber he builds is one of my favorite looking lightsabers in the world. It's all out of wood, and it's amazing. It's just freaking cool. And that's why I loved that video you showed me about Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
With building a lightsaber, and you could do like the earth elements with like the... Anyway, yeah.
No, that video, I already know when we go to Disneyland, I am going broke in Galaxy's Edge.
Right? Like, I'll just go back on that ride and just build another saber. Like, I just, over and over. But it talks about how when you enter into the temple, and I can't, it starts with an I, I think, is where they go. Anyway, the planet that they're on is one of the last remaining Kyber mines, basically. So when they get there, the students must pass a test to find their crystal. And it calls to them. So how I feel about Luke's saber...
It was Ilum or Ilum.
Ilum, thank you. Yes, that's exactly... Yeah, see, it started with an I. I told you. So when they go there, I think that what happens is that Luke's saber calls to Rey. And the Force works in mysterious ways. Things that, we don't even understand. There's things that haven't been unlocked yet. Then... Stories have been written about this, and I know most of them aren't canon anymore, but the Force is a very interesting thing. It's very mysterious. So I think in that moment, because I felt the same as you do, by the way, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, and also some kind of learned things that I've come to really accept when talking about this movie, is Rey had a special attunement with that saber, and I think that the Kyber crystal inside and her were connected, they were linked. And so I think that the saber and the Force know that it doesn't belong with Kylo, and I think that's how she overcomes him. Because I don't think anybody questioned, and maybe they did, I don't think anybody questioned her hand-to-hand combat skills, because she even says it.
And because she fought for they showed brief bits of it in the beginning when she was on Jakku.
On Jakku, yeah. She showed that she had hand-to-hand combat down with her staff and how good she was with that.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people come to take BB-8, she fights them off easily, and there's 2 or 3 of them,
Yeah, exactly. And that's when Finn's like, oh, I don't need to help her. I loved the whole holding hand thing. It was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's the thing with Rey, is I think she's specially attuned with the Force in that saber specifically. I think calls to her, and I think that they have a connection. Which does bring me to one of my bitches about about episode 8.
Yeah, which give me 2 seconds and we will get there. I know we're going a little over time on episode 7.
Though. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So again, I fell in love with a character that was small and only in there for a little bit, which was Maz.
Maz was amazing.
So just because we're talking about the lightsaber and everything, have you seen how that lightsaber ended up with her? Do you know any of that story? It was cut out of the movie. It was originally there. It was in a deleted scene or something.
Really? No, yes. I haven't.
Or it was in a comic of another one.
Okay.
So Maz is Force sensitive / possibly Jedi. And after Anakin / Darth Vader gets killed at the end of Return of the Jedi, she reawakens this want to connect with the Force again, and specifically searches out that specific saber and then brings it to her thing, which for some reason, again, in the stuff I'd seen and read, doesn't explain why she just puts it in storage, but that's how it got to Maz's cantina.
Interesting. Yeah, because he lost that saber in Empire when he finds out that Vader's his father.
Yes, and his hand gets cut off.
Yeah, because that's in the Sky City.
Yeah.
Wait, why am I Cloud City?
Cloud City, yeah, in the bottom of Cloud City, and yes,
right. So that was which they said was a mining planet, right? So she went and found it, which is crazy. That's cool.
Yeah, so
I thought that was neat.
I found that out today, and I was like, that is incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing and really, really... Well, she does say that she understands... When she's talking to Rey, she's like, I understand the Force. She's like, I'm no Jedi, but I understand the Force.
Yeah.
So maybe... And I personally think that Han Solo is a bit Force sensitive.
Oh, I full on believe he is.
When he talks to Obi-Wan and he talks about how lucky he is, and Obi-Wan's like, I've never believed in luck, or there's no such thing as luck.
Well, and then his flight skills that they showed in Solo, again, it harkens back to Anakin with being the only human that could pod race. It's
Right, exactly. Like, I think that, maybe he's not a Jedi, but he's definitely force. And, they talk about living beings that are force sensitive that aren't necessarily like Jedi, right? Or whatever. So, very, very cool stuff.
Okay.
We've really gone over
Nope,
on 7.
which is fine. So now we'll move into episode 8. It's
not even the most debated movie, and we went over
No,
7.
I know, but we're pushing hard. So, all right, so episode 8. Some of my talking points for episode 8 we touched in episode 7, which is fine. So one of my again, I overall really enjoyed episode 8. To me, it's probably my favorite of all the movies. I will go that far and say that.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
That is bold. Please tell me more. I'm in shock right now.
I still had lots of issues with it. But out of all the Star Wars movies and watching them back over again, to me, it was probably the most, I don't know, maybe it's my hope of what's coming next in why I didn't hate on it, because I liked what they were building on. So yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. I liked the way that, I liked stuff that people hated. So I'm going to jump straight to the end and then we'll work our way through the movie.
Let's do it. You tell me where you want to go, man. I'm still baffled by it being your favorite Star Wars movie.
I
please.
really liked the way that Luke died. Everybody hates it. Everybody hates it. They feel he didn't deserve it. Okay, maybe you don't. But
I don't.
The general sentiment in the world is Luke didn't deserve to die this way. This was beneath where he was. And I felt the polar opposite. It was the talk he had with Yoda sitting at the campfire after Rey left, where Yoda basically, again, showing how powerful Yoda is, because he is the most solid force projection you have seen up until that point. He just glows and he looks exactly like Yoda. He's not a shadowy figure like every other force projection has been to this point.
By the way, I just want to make that clear. The point when Yoda shows up is my favorite part in that entire movie.
Yes.
I could not be more excited. I almost jumped with joy and giddiness when it happened in the movie theater. I almost lost my crap, and I was very heavily intoxicated when it happened. I've
honestly
seen that movie 3 times in theater, I think. So
yeah, and honestly, I don't blame you at all. It was incredible because they did that so well, and his whole "you still haven't learned anything," and
it was still Frank Oz, which is just so good.
Oh, I know. And it was full on, you know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah.
You've been an idiot. You think you know all this stuff, but you don't see what's right in front of your face. He's still teaching Luke in that moment. Good. It is so good. And then he appears on the planet. Oh God, I feel horrible. I don't remember the name of that planet.
Oh, I don't either, and I just watched it. I honestly don't remember what the name of that planet was. But yeah, the Salty Planet.
The Salty Planet.
Where they fought, where they're at that the rebel base that they find. The
abandoned
one, yep.
The fact that nobody there realizes that he's a force projection shows again now how much more powerful Luke is, that he's finally embracing everything. And he goes out. Hell, he fights somebody who's attuned with the Force, who has absolutely no idea that he's a Force projection until Luke
Which, by the way, was an amazing fight scene.
Incredible fight scene.
It's so good. It's so good. So good. I love that scene. Luke versus... It's funny because guess where else you got to see that very same fight? One of my favorite lightsaber battles in the Star Wars movies is when Yoda and Dooku fight each other.
Yes.
And Dooku was Yoda's apprentice. Dooku turned to the dark side. And Dooku was one of Yoda's failures, as well as a lot of other things that Yoda... And Yoda was still so humble. He just...
Yeah, it was, I'm just here to do my thing.
Yep. So my argument to all the haters about the Luke dying... disappearing as they got mad about it. I guess they wanted him in some heroic, glorifying death. Why? Why do you want that? I'm sorry. One of the greatest Jedi ever is Yoda. And how did he die? Oh, he disappeared.
He just got old and disappeared. He just...
Yep. And
Yeah.
who else chose to disappear at just the right moment?
Obi-Wan.
Oh, Obi-Wan. So when you watch the Clone Wars series, I'm sorry I keep bringing that cartoon
No, it's
up.
fine.
You get to see why Obi-Wan and so Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon discovered a way to become that in tune with the Force. And Obi-Wan and Yoda both go on their own little self-finding adventure to get to that point. So this means that Luke became so powerful, he did something we've never seen any Jedi do ever. He projected himself, as you said, clearly across the galaxy. And then he disappeared. If you remember, and this is why I love that people hate it so much, because they talk about the original trilogy so hard. Like, oh my God, 4, 5, and 6 are the greatest Star Wars movies of all time, but Luke dying that way is so dumb. Like, get over yourself, 1. 2, Obi-Wan tells Darth Vader that I've become something stronger than you even know, and then disappears into Force projection. So Luke has ascended. All I'm saying is that Luke just became even more powerful with the Force.
I had absolutely, like, that was one of my favorite moments in the entire movie. Was so that
good.
point?
It was so good, and that fight scene, I can't talk enough about that fight
and
scene.
The fact that point when he's like, when that is happening, when he's ascending, basically, Rey is showing truly how attuned she is by lifting all the rocks so everybody can get out, was so well timed and put together. And it's one of the issues I have with the goddamn movie is how powerful Rey is with next to no training. It's just like, but it's also one of my favorite moments in the movie. It's like that point when you can even see on Poe's face and on Finn's face as they're standing there with everybody else, and she's just got all of these rocks floating. And it's a total cutback to Luke upside down trying to float the rock on during his training.
She's figured it out. Like, Luke succeeded. Like, he taught someone.
Without really teaching her.
Right, and that was exactly... Like, if you look at Luke Skywalker's his training process. Again, let's go back to the original trilogy that everybody praises so much. In Empire, Yoda tells him, hey man, I know that you see death of your friends because they were on Cloud City getting captured by Darth Vader and being tortured. I know you see this, but dude, Obi-Wan and me are trying to tell you, like Ghost Obi-Wan and real Yoda.
Don't go.
Are like, hey man,
fight that urge.
You haven't finished your training. You haven't finished your training, and yet those movies are just fine the way they are. But when old Rey does it, like, it's a huge problem. And when Luke ascends to being this amazing attunement with the Force after doing something so incredible in the Force, like, I'm sorry, I think that everything about The Last Jedi was super fun. It's super awesome. I think Rian Johnson pushed the limits, and I think he did a great movie, and I had a great time with it. You get to see Leia and show how into, because even in the books that aren't canon anymore, Leia and Luke, like, Luke's training her and showing her, and you got to see it in the original trilogy how in tune she naturally was with the Force. So because her and Luke could talk to each other, like, and they could feel each other, right? Like, she felt things, and so it only. Oh, sorry.
So no, I'm trying not to cut you off. I was trying to let you go.
You're good.
But that the moment you're talking about with Leia, where it shows how in tune in the Force she is, was also one of the things I hated. I loved the moment, and again, it's because they're showing that it's just the bloodline is just so powerful, and it's amazing who it is and what they're doing. Knowing that she had passed away before they did the final cut in real life, to me, that would have been the perfect moment to end her story arc. So having her Superman back into the ship, using the Force to protect herself from the outside air, almost felt like a disservice to Carrie Fisher as a person. It was incredible as a character, though. Like, don't get me wrong. It was super incredible as a character. I just feel like they didn't need to do it for her character. And so that was one of my issues with the movie that I do kind of agree with, but not to like a hatred level that other people have.
So here's why I disagree. I don't agree with you at all. And this is why I had a problem with it. I think so one of the most captivating things that happens in Star Wars, one of the most amazing turn of events that happens, is the fact that you find out that Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Yeah.
The second most captivating thing that happens within that trilogy is the fact that not only does he see good in him, but he gets him to turn on the Emperor, who he has served and killed so many people in the name of for the Empire. I think that I understand that Carrie Fisher died, and it sucks that it went the way it did. But I think showing Luke's ascension to the Force the way he did, and showing how important that was, and showing Kylo kill Han, right? So they didn't have another parent to give up. And I think that Kylo needs... I think killing killing Princess Leia was too much to even possibly give the hope that Kylo Ren would turn back to the good side. So I think that, and you could see it because he's not the one who fires on the station or on the ship.
Yeah, he hesitates. You're correct.
Yeah, it ends up being his people who are there with him. He can't do it. He could kill Han, but he couldn't kill his mom. Yeah. And so I think it's important that she is still alive for hope for Kylo. I think it's a shame. It's a damn shame that Carrie Fisher died when she did. I hate that happened because honestly, Carrie Fisher as a person seemed like somebody I could have like a drink with and really love to talk to.
Completely agree with you on that.
So I don't think they did her a disservice. I think the whole quote unquote Superman thing, I think that Rian Johnson pushed the bounds in showing what the Force could do. And I think that so many people hate on the things that he did in that movie because they don't like the different takes that he took. But I think he pushed boundaries. I think that it was important for him to push those boundaries. And I think that you have so many writers out there that have written books about how strong the Skywalker bloodline is, or how powerful and how many cool things they can do. And I think he just played with that. Who says that the living Force wouldn't protect such an amazing human being? Yeah. Because Leia was a truly good person. She was a truly great leader.
Through and through, yeah.
Right. So who says that the living Force wouldn't help protect her in that environment to bring her back? Because honestly, she was so vital to the cause. If you think about it, like when Poe's losing his crap, and he's trying to overthrow when Holdo has a great plan already in pace. Now there was, and I'll get to that, but I think that he showed that Leia is very much in tune with the Force in her age. She's captured that. She doesn't abuse that power, but in that moment, I think it helped because you saw she was immediately downed as soon as she got there. It took everything in her and the Force to save her, and I think that it was a really cool moment to see how living the Force can be and how truly powerful it can be for those moments when it's truly needed. And I think that it just goes back into how cool Star Wars is and how many cool things can happen.
Just to trigger you, her midichlorians were powerful that day.
Oh my! I'm gonna hit you through the internet. Stop talking about midichlorians. Jedis don't need to measure what. Just stop it, Steve. You stop it right now. So
I gotta bring drama into our episode.
Yeah. Well, we saw you linked a couple videos so that I could see kind of the other side of it. I wanted to see why people hated the movie. Last Jedi is one of the least well received movies. Like it's almost as visceral hate as Jar Jar Binks was. Like, as a character, the movie has gotten so much hate for what it's done that people don't argue that Rian Johnson shot a beautiful movie. It's a very, very gorgeous movie to watch.
The cinematography of it, nobody will argue with. It is incredibly beautiful.
Right, definitely not a Stickly. Right, it's definitely not a Stickly.
It's definitely not a Stickly. The scene, not a Stickly. Just because you brought it up, the scene when Holdo jumps to light speed and rips through the dreadnought and all of the other First Order. I want to find a poster of that scene right after it first goes through, and it's just like the silhouette of the ships with the light ripping through all of them, and I want to put that on my wall. So bad.
Beautiful. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. Just so pretty. It was a pretty scene for sure. So
yes, cinematography wise, 100%. Nobody can argue that this is one of the prettiest movies in the Star Wars universe.
Right, but that's not what people wanted. No. Right? They wanted this heroic thing from Luke, and even I guess there were some interviews like when you were showing me that Mark Hamill didn't agree with the way Luke was. But again, I don't like you get Yoda I think isolation changes a person,
Yes.
and I think that it was smart to give Luke kind of a different personality after ultimate failure. And I think that it's a cool connection because you look at the Yoda we get in episodes 1, 2, and 3, a very confident,
Jovial,
very
yeah.
wise master who's very very in tune with what's going on, and then you see a very saddened, heartbroken, hurting when he fails to beat the Emperor and he puts himself in exile. That time in isolation, after all that moment of just thinking about your mistakes and things that have happened and bad things that have occurred.
And feeling the Force as the dark side gets stronger. Yeah.
And that's a creature that's lived almost 1,000 years. Now take a human being in Luke Skywalker, who's definitely faulted, never completed his training fully, kind of did everything on his own, like really didn't have a whole lot of help with what he did, dealing with failure in not only a pupil, but a relative, and somebody who meant so much to his friends who he grew up fighting the Empire and starting the rebellion. Like, all those things that had happened, and for all that emotional baggage on a person, I think it changes.
So just because you're getting right into another point, I didn't even put it in our notes, but another point I wanted to talk about was, could you imagine how different Luke would have been if he had completed killing Ben at that moment?
Right.
Like, how different?
Yeah.
Because how much he, like, his whole exile and just hiding himself and shutting off from the Force. Like, that's the thing. He shut himself off from the Force somehow. He was powerful enough to stop his connection because he failed. Could you imagine what would have happened if he succeeded? Like,
devastating.
Oh, it would have. I couldn't imagine what they would have done.
Yeah, he couldn't face Han and Leia with a living son that had turned to the dark side, much less I murdered your child because I saw a vision and I acted on it instead of trying to help him.
Yeah,
right?
Instead of stopping the vision from coming true, I took it as this is real, and I just did it.
Yeah. And so I kind of got off in a tangent there, as I usually do.
No.
I want to talk about Vice Admiral Holdo, because in those videos that I watched of the hate, they made a good point about her. Now, I want to make it abundantly clear that Laura Dern, her performance as Vice Admiral Holdo, and the connection that she had with Leia, and the cool little stories they were telling about her to kind of give her some background, and the way she took charge, loved that character in its isolation. However, there was a point made that if it had been like Admiral Akbar that took the ship, that we would have felt more connected to it. I think that when you think back to A Force Awakens, and you think back to what JJ did right in giving you that nostalgia feeling, when you watch The Last Jedi, you don't get that same. And I get that he was trying to make something different, but I think at that very moment you could have given Admiral Akbar a death he deserved.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been cool. And I'm not saying that Holdo had to go away. She just wouldn't have been as strong because Akbar would have been in charge. But I know they killed him when Leia was supposed to die and everything.
Yeah.
But I think I do agree with the point on that while Vice Admiral Holdo was a cool character and I thought she was neat and strong and awesome, that I think that Akbar could have been given a better part to be the one who saved them.
And just to further that point, that is one of the things too, is I actually really, really, really liked her character. They could have totally had Akbar not die when the bridge got blown up, him take control and take out the fleet, and then have Vice Admiral help lead in episode 9 and build on that character, because she is an incredible character, and the stories they were telling, I want to see more. And I think they could have
seen her. Yeah.
And especially with Carrie Fisher passing, it would have been the perfect, because they were planting those seeds in episode 8 that she, probably is going to be one of these high ups that are going to take control. She's a powerful woman. She's got a great backstory. She's super intelligent. Like, the fact that she had planned all of that stuff and Poe couldn't even realize that.
She's a strategist, man.
Super strategist.
Yeah.
And I think they totally could have used that character, and it just, I agree with you completely on that.
Yeah, give back Akbar the heroic death he deserves. Give Admiral Holdo and that character the ability to be, because as
To
you
breathe,
said, after final cuts, they knew Carrie Fisher had died.
Yeah, they could have easily reshot that
Or before final cuts.
Before
right?
final cuts, yeah. Because
yeah.
they could have, Akbar was CGI'd in there. They could have CGI'd him out of the bridge scene. They could have had
his character do all those roles.
Well, they could have even
going out.
They could have kept everything up until the point when the ship was like, she was basically sending everybody off and saying, well, somebody has to stay behind. And Akbar could have been like, yes, that's me. And
yeah, just something.
Just
like,
he stood up and been like, even just like saying, I screwed up in whatever. Like he could have done it that way. He's like, just give me this moment. Like have him fighting for this moment to take that death. And then
and as he's, oh my God, and as he puts it in, you have the Empire, like it shows the First Order. You have the First Order, it shoots them. It's like, oh, you know, when she's turning the ship to go towards them, and he could be like, it's a trap.
I mean, I know they interjected a lot of humor with Luke in this, and that would have been hilarious, though.
I would have loved that from Akbar, man. It's a trap, you know. It's a trap.
I've got you. It's a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
But you're right, because then Leia, they could have done something in episode 9 where maybe she passes or something. Maybe they can't give as many scenes, so maybe she's sick, or they'll say she's sickly or something like that, because
they showed her weak at the end of episode 8 anyways. So
right, exactly. And then Laura Dern's character as Vice Admiral Holdo takes over, and like she addresses her as now the in charge, and then you get more of Holdo, who was an incredible character, and her interaction, and now she has a respect for Poe, that like he's learned what leadership's all about, and like you get a lesson there. Like just there could have been something there that I definitely think could have been better for that, and that was one of the complaints I thought was good.
Yes.
It's funny because I guess at Star Wars Celebration, another bitch was about Rose, and the Finn Rose story in that sideline. Yeah,
that was exactly what I was about to bring up. Was so another complaint that a lot of people had was how much time Finn and Rose had, considering they were, as the video I had linked, and I was getting some of these talking points from like the hatred.
Right. Yeah, because we need to see that side.
I
want to acknowledge what people are saying specifically, for sure.
A lot of it was, I think they called it the rookie treatment, where these newer characters were being thrust in, and they brought in like Holdo as one of the people, and Rose, and I think there was one or two other people they mentioned as well.
Yeah, they mentioned the hacker that was played by that was what's his name? Oh my God, I don't remember his name right now.
But I know
Benicio del Toro.
But yes,
Benicio del Toro. Yes,
and
DJ.
Yes, and again I actually disagree with people on this one.
As do I. I agree with you to disagree.
I agree that the space chase scene was a little bit drawn out. I will give them that. They didn't.
Was it though? Because in rewatching it, they don't. I'm sorry, but everything that happened. Yes,
everything happens for a reason.
About it,
but I think they could have cut a few things out.
What though? What would you have cut out? You tell me a part of that chase scene that needs to be cut out, and I will.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, tell me.
Like
what
that's
needs to be cut?
I can't
exactly, because the chase scene doesn't really take as long as people give it. Yes, it takes up a lot of time, but there's things happening. For instance, when the chase scene, when Finn and everybody, like they're showing his storyline and why he needs to leave.
Yeah.
They're showing like Poe taking over and taking over Vice Admiral Holdo, and like the only thing, and you see all these things happening during the chase. Like the chase scene itself, I mean, there was action happening every time it got to the chase scene. Yes, the chase scene took a long time, but it was a major plot point to what was happening to the Republic in running away. If I think about the chase scene, the most I could see them cutting is them blowing up the ships that are falling off, because they're not doing it. But
then you kind of need that for the build up too.
Right. Yeah.
So you know what's happening and how dire it's getting. Yeah. No. So it felt drawn out, but yes, again, I agree with you where everything was happening for a reason and it needed to be told.
And it needed to be long, because think about what Finn and Rose had to do in order to possibly, they obviously ended up making everything worse. And I think that was all character development more for, so like you get to see Rose and Finn do things, but really if you think about it from the big picture, it was character development for Poe.
Yes. No,
because he's learning a valuable lesson,
Yeah.
whereas Holdo's like trying to plan for something that could help them. That whole time, Poe's just thinking about doing what he thinks. Like he's very narrow-minded, and he sacrifices a lot to get his way.
Yes,
and I love Poe, but I just thought that this was such great character development for a character who really was kind of a showboater and kind of a heroic. He needed to learn things, and I think Leia was trying to teach him that, and Holdo was trying to teach him that. But they were being so secretive to him. But it was neat to know at that moment that he's so impatient, and unfortunately he sends Finn and Rose to go do this thing, and then DJ meet DJ, and DJ betrays him, and is the reason that the transports start getting shot at. Is all because Poe sent Rose and Finn to go do this thing. Is the reason that then they find DJ and DJ turns him over, and now people are dying.
But
like,
it
if
also
Holdo's plan had been trusted,
it's also leading into episode 9 with those kids that were in like the stables.
Yeah. The force sensitive.
The force,
you see at the
yes,
end.
and that part.
And what does he do with no training?
Yeah, this is true. You're right. Yeah.
All I'm saying is like it's not that. I think people find themselves in a situation like people have to find out somehow. So things are happening. Like for instance, Anakin, and I know episode 1, 2, and 3 aren't the best ones to compare things to, but Anakin, like he could see things, right? It was showing he was force sensitive by his reflexes, right? He had enhanced reflexes
and his dreams.
So, but that whole scene I thought was really cool. I do have a problem, and this was another thing I kind of agreed, was that I think there could have been better development in why they got arrested and met DJ, or even like just changing up because parking wrong. Like, you know what I mean? That was kind of lame.
They were parked on a beach.
Or at least show the interaction to find out why. And I get that the movie's already a 2.5 hour long movie, so it's hard to find reasons to like cut things. But I felt like maybe that point, like, okay, so they parked on the beach. Like, who really cares? Well, apparently this one alien told them that they shouldn't park there, and they didn't listen to him. Like, I think that they could have done something with that a little better. But I loved seeing Rose's development. How she talks about how her and her sister, who you saw die at the beginning, like, and she was clearly attached to that. Like, you got to see how, like, this is where we came from, and this you got a little character development with a brand new character.
We were like the stable people on this. Like, we're the people you don't see on these pretty planets.
Yeah, and JJ even says that one of the best things Rian Johnson gave him was Rose, because Rose was such a good character. I thought she was great. And her and Finn, that relationship, because you got Finn and Rey, you got kind of this love connection in the first movie, but I don't think that like that was supposed to. I think it was more of like a really hard friendship that was really, really close. And you finally get to see something between Finn and Rose that I think was special and fun. And I thought it was cool because Rian Johnson only had this movie to introduce his new character in, right? And he had DJ, Holdo, and Rose, I think were the three main ones he introduced.
And I think DJ is the weakest out of the three. He's still a good character, but I think he was the weakest out of the three.
Ugh, that's and it's so tough because I loved Benicio. Like, I walked out of the theater and I still feel that way now. I love his character, but you're right. Like, Rose was so well done. I thought Holdo was a cool character, but again, we talked about the Akbar thing. So I think with DJ, like, he was just. I have a bias with Benicio del Toro. I love
him as an actor.
Suspects.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
Collector in Marvel. Yeah, like, I just love Benicio del Toro. Like, Two Guns, I think is what, or what's it? Anyway, it's another really, with Ryan Felipe, I think is the other character.
Yeah.
And they have the slow car scene. It's amazing. Like, Benicio del Toro is just good. Like, he's just a good actor. I loved him as DJ, but you make some valid points into whether who was stronger. I think I personally like DJ more than Rose or Holdo, but that's because that's just me, personal opinion.
I think part of it is, to me, after like watching everything through, DJ came across kind of as a mix of like the dick side of Solo and like the combination of the like attitude of Lando. Like, he was a conglomerate, like he's just a slimy.
He's a businessman.
He just does what. Yeah. And so I think that's why, to me, it didn't quite come. He was incredibly well written character. For the limited amount of time you saw him on the screen, I think screen time was maybe 20 minutes in the 2.5 hours of the movie.
And he was lovely.
He was really well done. And again, it's credit to Benicio del Toro for acting it the way he did. The stutter was so good.
Yeah. But what I loved about him was the thing about Star Wars, right? Is dark side, light side.
Yeah.
It's always about, the you're talking about like the Republic versus the Separatists. You're talking about the Empire versus the rebels, right? And that moment in the ship when Finn approaches him and he finds out he's rummaging through his own ship, quote unquote, and then he finds out it's stolen, and he teaches him the lesson about the arms dealer. He's like, oh, he sells to both sides, right? Like it shows you all the Empire vehicles and then it shows you an X-Wing. And I think I just fell in love with that scene. I love that scene because Benicio del Toro, like DJ shows them, he's like, you don't choose a side, man. Like you live free. Like he shows Finn what he could have had.
So this
it's kind of cool that way because if you remember Finn, all he wanted to do was get to the outer.
Yeah, he didn't want to pick a side. He wanted to just be away.
So he got to see kind of himself. Like, what if he had become DJ? Like, DJ, clearly smart guy, knows his way around things. Slimy, yeah, he wants money. But it's not like he hid that part of himself, right? He didn't hide it from him.
Yeah, this is true.
They were in desperation, just like Poe was in desperation to send them because, he didn't want to screw up. He didn't want to lose that ship, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't looking at the bigger picture, just like they trusted beneath. They didn't... Like, Maz gave them who they were supposed to get. Somebody that she trusted.
Yeah.
And yet they went against that because he got them out. Like, they could have left and tried to get to the guy with the lapel, but instead they trusted him when he got them in the ship because they were running and they end up in the stalls and all that other stuff. Like, they could have tried to find a way, but they didn't. Instead, they, in the heat of the moment, BB-8 ends up with, DJ and then takes him away. Like, I thought it was a really cool thing for him to teach him, and he teaches that lesson again. He's like, today they got you, maybe tomorrow you'll get them, but in the end, like.
So this is almost a perfect segue into us talking about what we'd like to see in Episode 9, just because when you said the Star Wars have always been about light versus dark and everything, is it? So Luke's talk to Rey about why he didn't want to train her. And if you think about where they were, the island that he was on was the conglomeration of the light world and the dark world. It was...
Well, so was Dagobah.
It was. And it's pretty much where every Jedi temple has been, or major training thing, is these physical connections between light and dark. So the strongest points for people to be trained is where both exist. And Luke saying that the Jedi Order needs to die.
The religion.
Yes, the religion needs to die. And to me, I think this is where I want it to go, because I think they're kind of leading Rey in that direction too. She's not shutting off her emotions and her anger. She's using them, but in a calm, peaceful way for the betterment of life. So
there's another Jedi who does that, though.
Was that Obi-Wan?
Mace Windu.
Oh, Mace Windu.
So that's what the purple lightsaber is supposed to represent. It's supposed to represent a Jedi who is close with the dark side. Mm. So something with it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very, very powerful, but it's very dangerous. And I don't think it's canon anymore.
No, but
anyway, I just want... I love where you're going with this.
Yeah, and to me, that's where I think it's going to end up. I think that is the ultimate end of the Star Wars saga, is to say that this battle versus good and evil, where you have to be good or you have to be evil, is wrong. And it's the admitting and owning that you have emotions, that you are able to feel things. You're going to get anger. You're going to have hatred. You're going to have jealousy, but not giving into them. And being able to use those to feed the good things. Like Rose says when she saves Finn, it's not defeating the other people, it's saving those that we love. And it's why when Rey lifts those rocks, because in that moment, when she comes down, she feels hopeless. Because there's nothing she can do at that moment to get them out.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she has this immense power because she's using that fear, that loss, that sadness in her for the good of saving the ones she loves. And it's, to me, that's where they're going with it, is it's going to be like Kylo says to her on the ship when he's trying to get her to join him, old things need to die. Good versus evil needs to just go away. His thing is, we still need to be like the dark evil side of it, where she's going to be the opposite, where it's like, as long as we're bettering the world, feel the emotions, be in tune with the world, live in harmony is basically what it's going to be. Is to me where it's kind of going. And she's going to train new people to be stronger in the Force than anybody had ever imagined.
So a couple dangerous things with that. So it's kind of cool because they did a set of like comics for Vader and following his story a bit.
Yep.
It's funny because you remember the reason he joins the dark side, the reason he goes with the Emperor. And I get that the Emperor's manipulating him, but it's all with the hope of saving those he loves.
Yes. It's
right now. Well, I want to.
No. Yeah, I'm going to let you finish before Yes.
Yeah. So he goes on to take that further. So when he loses Padme, and he doesn't realize he has kids or whatever, and he's doing things, he takes it to a different way. So he lost his mom, he lost his love, he lost these things. Well, he starts abusing the fact that he is second to the Emperor to start going and killing off slavery. So he uses the Empire, and I get that the Empire in the bigger picture is utilizing slaves in a way, right?
Yeah.
But Anakin, as in his youth, he uses his abilities as Darth Vader to go and like take away slave colonies. It's pretty cool. So like he uses it to try to be a betterment, because at some point, like in the beginning, he believes the Empire is truly good, and he believes that the Jedi Order, the Jedi religion, is corrupt and doesn't. So that's when you say things like that, it's funny. Because it's dangerous.
Well, and that's part of, I think that was the initial seeds for how I think it's going to end. And I think it was Lucas's vision from the very beginning. I'm hoping it is anyways. To me, it's going to be like the perfect ending to this entire Skywalker saga is, in the end, Darth Vader truly was the beginning of the end of the Jedis. But not for a bad reason, for a good reason. He's going to end the Sith, he's going to end the Jedi, and it's just going to be this good world. And,
like he truly brought balance.
He was truly the chosen one, and he brought balance.
That's interesting, because it kind of goes back to that Clone Wars episode I was talking about, and how that works. It's interesting you just say that. It's really, really cool. But I do think that there's some things, like, so how did you feel about Snoke going down the way he did?
I am disappointed because
really,
no. So more. I liked the way that Kylo killed him. I thought that was genius because he was narrating his own death without realizing, which again shows how powerful Kylo was, because he was able to hide his true intention from Snoke.
Because Snoke, as a powerful Sith, was still was using
Kylo. Yeah.
Kylo, because he's Skywalker, just like the Emperor used Vader.
Yeah.
Like he used Anakin because of his power.
And he's like, I bridged you two. I created this connection. I've been watching all along. But he couldn't see that Kylo was about to kill him, which shows again how powerful that bloodline is and how powerful he truly is in the background, which is amazing. So I liked how he killed him. I didn't like that they didn't show why Snoke came out of nowhere to be this powerful figure leading the First Order.
So that is my favorite thing in the whole deal. Now, I think that so this is still going on with episode 9 because this is kind of a great segue. Yeah. So I think that I personally love things like that. I love it when fan fictions all gets crapped on because everybody thinks they know exactly what's going to happen. They're like, oh my God, Rey is really Luke's. Like, why don't you think Luke would have an idea if he knocked somebody up? Like, just even a little bit. I
want to get into that. I want to talk about Rey's parentage. So I think it's perfectly okay that Rey comes from nothing.
Like, there's plenty of Jedi that are powerful that come from not the Sky. Why do they have to come from the Skywalker bloodline? So that being said, the next movie's called The Last Skywalker?
No, Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker? So what's to say that isn't Ben Solo? He's technically still a Skywalker.
So
just so that's abundantly clear, he's still a Skywalker.
No, I know. I completely agree with you there. So I think.
Well, sorry, hold on. Before you get into,
yep.
before you just let me finish, because I know that I tangent off and I did this to myself.
Good,
I set myself, but I love it when people get disappointed in their whole big theories being wrong. I loved that Rian Johnson just took Snoke out of the equation. I love it. I love it with no, you get nothing more. I personally loved that, and I think that just like in other movies, it can be answered in comics and cartoons or live actions or whatever.
Hell, they could even answer it in episode 9. They could do a flashback and show why he took over.
So that's what I'm getting to. I think that J.J. Abrams in episode 9, this is not a hope. I hope he doesn't do this. But I think that just to give the fans what they want, just because he's a people pleaser, you saw it with Force Awakens. I mean, he made a safe movie.
Yeah.
Rian Johnson he initiated individuality. I think that J.J. Abrams just followed a solid pattern so that he could get appraised for the accolades of making The Force Awakens. That's just how I feel. So I think he's going to be, it's like, I don't remember what it's called, but he's just giving up to the fans, and I think he's going to give us a backstory.
He's doing fan service, yeah.
Fan service, that's the word. Thank you. I think he's going to do fan service and give Snoke's background, or he's going to make it where Snoke isn't dead. And I want to talk about that more after you make your point about Rey. So sorry.
Yeah, as we're talking about episode 9 now, I know a lot of people had issue with the fact they didn't really talk about Rey's parentage. All they said was Kylo Ren saw when they were connected who her parents were, and then he refused to tell her. I don't know if he really saw it. I think that could be Snoke controlling it, because remember he said, I was controlling everything you guys were doing.
Right.
So I don't know if he truly saw who her parents were. And I think when she went into the underground cave and she saw the vision, I think the mass amount of her that we saw, and I know people have theorized about this and I'm not being original. I think
I haven't heard any of these theories.
Oh,
this
okay.
is new for me, man. Please educate me.
I think that was saying that she's a clone. And so she is a clone of somebody who has Force powers. And that's why she was left there, because she was the last viable clone because they had killed everybody else off.
Interesting. Ooh. Well, so Kylo did give up who her parents were.
He did, but that's who he believed they were from that vision, which Snoke was controlling. So,
yeah, said that they sold her off for
slavery and
money.
And then they left her there.
Yeah.
And they were
junk
nobodies.
traders.
Yeah, they were just junk traders that left her there. I don't think that's...
Yep.
I think that was just thrown in there to throw people off. And it's totally something somebody from the dark side would do to try and convert somebody to being on the dark side, especially somebody as powerful as her.
I do 100% agree with that. I am okay. Like, whereas I don't want fan service for Snoke, I am perfectly okay with changing Rey's true... Like, I'm okay with it being Kylo manipulating her. I'm like, because he could be using it, just like you said, as a dark side tactic to make her feel like she's truly alone without him, to get him to get her to come to his side. And I am okay with that.
The reason I think she's a clone, and it comes from that cave thing too. So there's lots of her. She's snapping, and you can see like it's almost like there's more than her there. But when she turns and it's the wall, the ice wall, and she's like, I want to see my parents. And you see the two shadows, and as they walk forward, it becomes one person. That is where I'm like, she comes from one person. She doesn't have parents. She has a single parent or a single clone. And they had already touched on it with like both of ours favorite character in the Star Wars world is a clone, Boba Fett. He was an unaltered 100%. Clone. So they've already done this. And so I think they cloned somebody who is super Force attuned. My gut, honestly, is going to say it was Obi-Wan. Somebody had something, and that's where he's attuned to, for some reason, to that saber. Or it could even be she's a direct clone of Anakin, and that's why she's so in tune with that saber. It's a direct connection to who originally created it.
Interesting.
And
oh my god, I haven't heard any of this. This is cool.
So
I
the clone theory is what's there.
captivating.
This is me, like, my thoughts on the clone theory. So a lot of people saw the hundreds of her in the cave and were like, oh my God, she's a clone. And again, I can see it. And the more I've watched, again, watching it again and again, it's really, I don't know, my brain is going, they're going to do it that way. And it's why when she had the vision, the saber said her name, because it knows her. It's part of her. And it's like you said, she has that weird connection with it where she was able to overpower Kylo early on to get that saber. It's like, yeah, to me, it ties in, like, she could be a female clone of Anakin, which explains her crazy attunement to the Force, why she was attracted to the saber, and why he still would be the chosen one. Just different. Like, it started everything.
Interesting. So, yeah, and don't get it twisted. I might have said that I love it when fan theories get crushed. It does not mean that I don't enjoy fan theories. One of my favorite fan theories that's ever existed was Jar Jar Binks as a Sith Lord behind the scenes. I love that fan theory.
Oh my God, the amount of proof people went through. They were like,
yes,
he was using mind tricks every 5 seconds. He controlled everybody.
Yeah, and like I'm okay with fan theory. Don't get me wrong, man. I love fan theories, but I love watching people be sad when their theories aren't true, just because it's good to have a surprise every now and then.
Oh God,
it's the same reason when we talked about Game of Thrones, and I was like, I don't mind things being different. Like, it's okay to do something a little different. Like, it's fine. People just go in uproars about it. But yeah, no, that is cool. That is cool. So, do you have any other? So, I know we got the Emperor Palpatine's laugh.
Yes.
We see Rey, and it looks like Kylo driving the Interceptor going at each other, and we see that, you know, Luke's talking. So I think what we're gonna get is Luke as the Force Ghost, because you know he's
that
the
strong,
most powerful Jedi, and he did that. He ascended, all you angry people, and then I think he's giving advice to further with Rey.
Oh, I full on think he's training her from the Force afterlife.
Right. And I think that, you know, and I think Disney confirmed that they're not going to do any CGI of Leia. I think they're going to all try to use scenes that they had before to try to kind of interweave her in. So I'm interested to see what
I think they might, I have a feeling they might do some behind the scenes where they use her daughter as a stand-in.
Yeah, that's fair. And her daughter and her were really close.
Yes, and her daughter's in the movies already. She's been in the movies anyways.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she was.
I didn't know that.
She was in the last one. I don't remember her name. It's Billy something.
Okay, cool. So, what are some of your thoughts on the Emperor's laugh? Where do you think Palpatine's going to come in?
So I mentioned this.
You talked about before. Yeah. See how I got you there.
So I mentioned this before. With, I think, in our last episode or the first episode of us talking about this, because
it was just the first episode. Guess I got mad at you. Yes, I was like, you should have waited.
In the comics, it's shown, because they're talking about how Anakin was created, and in his power after, I think it was after death, he's able to see how he was created, and it was Palpatine behind the scenes controlling everything. So he was able to manifest the midichlorians or whatever, however they want to explain it. I don't remember how they explained it in there. I'm just using that because that was what they used in that timeline. To create the Immaculate Conception inside Anakin's mom, which started the Skywalker timeline. Which to me would be, if they do bring that in, because as far as I'm aware, that comic is considered canon. I don't know if they're going to tie that into the movie, though.
But JJ made a comment, right?
Yes, JJ has mentioned the comics and how they're going to be tying in. His plan for this movie is to see how great the first 3 episodes truly were and how much they've set up everything else to come.
To see, so he's basically playing on George Lucas's true vision.
He's going to show how actual smart George Lucas was in these movies that you all hated, in tying these little stories together.
I'm excited, man.
I am super excited.
I didn't mean to kind of poop on JJ a little bit, but he was. I feel like the one thing I respect with Rian Johnson, he took chances. I think he did some things with that movie, with The Last Jedi, that I thought were fun. and I thought were great. And no movie's perfect, man. I watch I could complain about every movie. Yep. With the 4, 5, and 6 are the ones that I have the least amount of complaints about because of nostalgia. I watched them growing up as a kid. It's hard to hate movies you grew up with. But if I was to, truly just take them and break them down, man, they're not perfect by any means. They have their flaws for sure, as we've discussed, despite my very bad memory on something. I think I nailed most of it, but yeah. I think that's cool. What do you So possibly, do you think we'll see Palpatine at all, or do you think that they're just playing on the laugh as a
No,
sound?
I actually do. So, again, reading leaks this last week, since we've started this, all I breathe is Star Wars outside of my work.
That's it. Like I said, our baby's room's going to be Star Wars, man. I can't stop thinking about Star Wars.
I've started 3D printing Count Dooku's lightsaber. Like, everything is Star Wars right now in my life.
Heck yeah.
So one of the theories is that, again, I don't know if it's going to be true. Part of me wants to, though, is we've never seen Palpatine come back as a Force projection.
Right.
So them all of a sudden coming back with this laugh, and if we're to believe the comics are going to tie into his whole birth in the beginning, and so if J.J. Abrams is going that way, they're going to have to show how powerful he has been this entire time, which means he's going to have had to have existed in every single movie since, somewhere. So they're going to have to show that he's strong enough in the dark side that he's been able to. So one of the rumors is one of Kylo's disciples, not the actual Knights of Ren, but somebody close, gave themselves up to be the new Palpatine. And so Palpatine's
like a host body or something?
Yes. So that's one of the theories going around right now is Palpatine's so strong in it that he's able to basically possess any willing body and has been doing that all along. And so,
I mean, he talks about bringing people back from the dead.
Yeah. And so I think that
in episodes 1, 2, and 3,
and I think that's how it's going to be done, is it's not physically bringing them back. It's bringing their essence, their spirit into a different body that's willing to allow this spirit in.
You ready for a thought?
Yep.
Snoke was a variation of that.
And I can see that. It makes sense. And why he was so haggard was they took like a dying body that the person was like, you know what? Yes, take my body, do with it.
Yeah.
My only concern with that, though, is if they do that, with them saying how powerful Palpatine has been all along, how did he not see Kylo about to kill him?
No, so I was about to get to that.
Yeah.
I wanted to let you kind of get that out. But what if he did it on purpose?
To further everything?
Yes. By killing, he succeeded, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, where did Kylo go after he killed Snoke?
He
took control.
Yeah, he did. This is true.
He became this quote-unquote supreme leader. He took control of the First Order, a central figure that had already become strong in the Force, and doing everything, which forced Luke out to then project himself and eventually ascend, leaving, hopefully, Rey maybe in a mess. Who knows, right? Maybe, but what if Palpatine was pulling the strings and didn't mind letting that body die? What if he found a different body and was like, you know what? This is going to help further my pupil.
I like it.
That bloodline. What if, right? What if that happened? Like, what if that, like, and that would give love for everybody finding out finally who the hell Snoke is.
Yep.
Bringing the Emperor back in and furthering the storyline so that was the one thing I want to talk about is despite my hate for Kylo in Force Awakens, I was given the hope of who he could be in The Last Jedi. Yeah. I actually enjoyed Kylo's character very, very much in The Last Jedi. I came out saying I think I might like Kylo Ren now.
Yeah. I liked when Luke walks out of the base and he's like, I want every gun to fire on him.
Yes,
and then he's
exactly.
Like, don't stop.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved every bit of, like, I thought Kylo's development was very, very good in this movie. I thought that, and remember, Snoke says it in episode 7. He said, "Bring Kylo to me for the final part of his training."
To complete his final training.
What if this was the completion of his training? He needed to ensure that he didn't turn, right? Because if he stayed under Snoke, that oppressive way of life, like, it was clear he was ready to go, and the Emperor, like, what if Palpatine knew that and decided to make that transition for Kylo easier, where he thinks old things die, right? So he's like, oh yeah, clearly this is going to really turn him completely. Like, there is no hope for Kylo anymore. If that's the case? That
is actually really interesting. I like that.
I like that thought, man. That's cool. Okay, well that seems amazing.
It does.
Like, for that.
So one thing before we end.
Oh no, you're good, man. I'm having fun with this.
The one thing that I think has been missing up to this point, and from what I've been hearing and reading, is who are the Knights of Ren? So again, I don't know. I don't think you've read anything about them yet. So
no.
The rumor, or fan theory, I should just call it a fan theory.
I thought they had books or comics.
They do. They have books and comics. They have all this other stuff where they talk about them and how they're this elite force.
Okay.
So the fan theory for what's going to happen in episode 9 is they've been out searching for something for Kylo for the entire time. So since he started to become more powerful and everything, so from like just before The Force Awakens, basically, he has sent the Knights of Ren to scour the universe to find something for him. So the fan theory is, in episode 9, they find it and bring it to him, which helps him become even more powerful. And that thing is something to do with Vader. It's either
Vader's saber.
It's his saber, his armor, something. In the comics, it's the saber, because he takes the Kyber crystal out, and the Kyber crystal actually fuses with him and his spirit. And he gets insanely powerful in this somehow fusion with the Kyber crystal. Which, again, I've never seen or heard anywhere else except for this one comic book panel I saw of that ever happening.
Interesting.
So that's one of the theories is, the Knights of Ren are going to come and it's going to make him insanely powerful.
I would love to... I mean, I don't have a problem with the Knights of Ren coming. I honestly, like, at first I was assuming that, like, you know, the really cool... The battle scene. I loved the battle scene of Rey and Kylo after Snoke dies.
Oh, against the Royal Guards?
Fighting all those... Yeah, the Royal Guards, dude. I thought those were the Knights of Ren.
I actually thought they were too. Because they were they were a strong force to fight with.
Very strong. Yes. And they were, like, tough, but they didn't have sabers, and I don't know if that was because... Well, I get that their weapons were like that, but what I'm saying is they didn't have... Like,
they weren't full lightsabers. They were just...
Right, and if Snoke truly is Sidious, take this on. Sidious was very much in the belief of the rule of two.
Yeah.
So maybe when he, as embodied as Snoke, brought Kylo in as his apprentice, he saw that there was also these Knights of Ren that were amazing and force sensitive. So he saw powerful warriors. It was like, you will be my personal guards. You can't be my apprentice. There can only be two. But not to waste that talent, brought them in as his, and I thought maybe they were it. But you could, if they truly still exist and we have that, that's also cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah, both ways I'm excited to see. Because again, it was what we talked about a couple episodes of our podcast ago, where what we would like to see with the Old Republic movies and and Benioff and Weiss taking over.
Right. Yep.
The more than two Sith. Like,
right.
And again, that we could see that in this. Like, they could transition where now all of a sudden we have Kylo and his Knights of Ren, and they're all Sith, and they're all powerful.
Yeah. I had a thought. It was part of my other oops wrong thing. I mentioned a certain Sith that gets hired on. I think it was in our first trilogy episode 10. And I mentioned her name, and I couldn't remember. It's Asajj Ventress.
Yes.
I couldn't believe I couldn't remember her name, and I think I said some really other random name. Asajj Ventress was who I was talking about. That was under Dooku in those Clone Wars, the rare Clone Wars version. You get to see Asajj Ventress do some really.
And
cool
she
stuff.
has an amazing lightsaber, by the way.
She dual wields.
Yes, and her hilt is insane.
They're the same. Yeah. Her hilts are very, very cool. Sorry, but you're right. If we could see, if we could just see more, these movies have been so beautiful, like they really have been. And that whole fight scene with Kylo and Rey was really, really cool. Like when she throws her saber to Kylo and he blasts the dude in the head with it. Like, it was very, very neat. It was very beautiful. It was a really cool movie. I liked it. I know people hated it. To each their own. As I said before, everyone's a critic, man.
And I mean, we've just got a couple more months until we finally see the end of the saga. So,
well, some of the people I respected the most in their opinions on movies didn't like The Last Jedi at all, and they hate on Rian Johnson a lot. And I to each their own. Each their own opinion. That's how I feel about The Last Jedi. I thought it was a good movie. I thought that there was some daring things that were done. I thought that Rian Johnson pushed limits, and I don't think he's a bad director. I don't think he messed up Star Wars.
No, and I don't think he completely... So, yeah, one of the other things that people said about The Last Jedi was he completely ignored storylines from Episode 7. I don't think he did. I just don't think he fed into them as much as people would have liked to have seen. And I think that's fine.
Thank you.
And
you just reminded me of something, though.
Yep.
But you continue your point.
No. I was coming to the end of it where it was. I don't think he needed to tell that story. It's the middle child movie. It's always the second movie in a trilogy is okay, except for Empire, is usually the worst because they don't do as much with them. I get Empire's a standalone, and Empire is one of the better movies, especially for that trilogy. But in general,
it's
trilogies.
The best movie of all Star Wars movies, Steve.
See,
don't make me kill you.
So you're gonna have
Empire
to, because
is the best
to
movie.
me, Last Jedi is the best movie. So it's
we don't agree there, Steve, because Rogue One is second. All right, just stop that. But my point is, aside from you being wrong about what the best Star Wars movie is, because Empire is the best Star Wars movie of all time. That aside from you being wrong, my point was that is one thing that you just made a very good point with. Is everybody thought that he was undoing things JJ did. I agree with you. I don't think he was undoing anything JJ did. I think that everything that he did is completely still in the clear to make whatever they want, and JJ gets to be the one who finishes it. So, he can take that and do whatever he wants with it.
Yeah.
However, I do feel like just in the trailer alone, I feel like it's insulting that JJ put Kylo's helmet back together.
Yeah.
And, like it looks like he undid the lightsaber being broken. Like I think it's fine if Rey built her own. Like I don't think the Kyber crystal got destroyed.
No, because they didn't show any of that.
And I need more data. Obviously, the movie hasn't come out yet. So when it does, I'll be able to see why he put his helmet back together. But I don't agree with Kylo. Like he clearly got away from that. Because the reason... That's one thing, like, Darth Vader needed his helmet was part of his suit. He was mostly robot. Like, Kylo having the helmet was kind of pointless. Like, it didn't make any sense.
Well, so the reason he wanted the helmet and the reason he spoke the way he did when he had the helmet on was an homage to Vader. He looks up to his grandfather. He wants to be his grandfather.
Like, it just kind of made him seem foolish because Vader needed... Like, I'm sure Vader would have... loved to not been mostly robot, and I'm sure Vader would have loved to have not had to hide his face behind a machine.
So
right, I'm just
because you brought up
silly.
That scene with the whole putting together back of the helmet. What if they're using the broken helmet from Vader's helmet? Because remember they showed that they specifically showed that he has Vader's helmet.
Right, which is melted because they burned Vader's body at the end of Jedi.
So what if he's fusing his helmet with Vader's helmet?
And that could be cool.
It's another theory that could happen.
Right. But if he's just putting back together his old helmet, I think that because of all the visceral hate, yet again, what'd you call it? It's
fan service. Just
fan service, just to be like, oh, you know what, guys? I'm so sorry Rian Johnson did. Like, that's kind of insulting to the guy. Like, just because if the power's in the fans' hands, like, that was one thing I gave George Lucas. He didn't care what the fans did. It was his story.
And I mean,
the fans, out. Like,
the fans also showed that they are, I mean, I hate to say it, but you're a bunch of hateful assholes.
They can be.
Like, the fact that
really can.
The fact that the actress that played Rose had to quit social media for a while because of how bad fans hated on her.
Which was mean.
It is so mean.
Her character was great.
And it's why I loved the Star Wars celebration and the fact that they cheered her and gave her a standing ovation.
Yes, they did.
It was so well deserved because nobody deserves that. These are characters in a fictional universe created by one old man 40 years ago that I get. We've grown up. We've loved them. We throw everything into them. And I'm getting preachy, and I know people hate when I get preachy, but just grow the fuck up.
Yeah, either way, I think that
everybody's entitled to their opinion, but when you force somebody to have to stop doing something because you don't like what they did, there's something wrong with that.
And by delivering fan service, you give more power to the voice of people telling you how to tell your own story. Like, you tell your story the way you want to tell it. And that's what I loved about, Benioff and Weiss when they did Game of Thrones. They told their own story. That's what I loved. I love those movies or not. George Lucas was telling his story.
Yep.
Like, I think when people tell their story, they do their own thing. I think that's better than just fan service to people. That's how you get the last season of Californication is fan service. Like, it's a mistake. I think it's wrong. I think that everybody's entitled to be angry about a movie, but I don't think that it should drive people to change the way they do it. And I could be wrong. Like I said, this is all just from a trailer, but it looked like JJ was just like, screw you, Rian Johnson. I'm going to give fan service and show all this stuff happening just so that you can be pleased that I undid some things that he did when what he did wasn't that bad.
No,
but,
I don't think.
Teach their own. I'm going to keep ranting, Steve.
I know we're going to have to end it because I'm going to start preaching and we'll both start ranting.
Yeah,
and
we'll just start getting there. Yeah, we're just going to get.
We've done really good. An hour and 50 minutes of us not preaching. We're trying.
We got there though.
We got to it. We got to it.
We got there. Yeah, we're on the soapbox now, baby. Yeah. Let's get off the soapbox.
Let's get off the soapbox.
Let's tell them how to reach us, Steve. Tell them how to get us.
So the usual spiel on Twitter. I'm CanYouGeek. He's Southam Designs. You can hit us up on Facebook at CanYouGeek Podcast or CanYouGeek Nerds. On Patreon, we're CanYouGeek. So hit us, email us, contact us. We're in the show notes.
Share us with your friends, people. Yes. Share us a lot. We want more feedback. We want more angry people.
We do.
Get some more angry people out of us. We love angry people.
If you have an opinion on what we've talked about, or you just want to share your opinion, send it to us. We really want to do a mailbag.
Angry tweet us.
Angry tweet us. We want a mailbag episode where we can go through your comments. We can have more of an open give and take with you guys, more of a conversation with you guys, more than just the two of us talking.
Sure enough, because Steve's boring. You can clearly see that.
We don't.
Although he has a sexier voice, you definitely have a sexier voice. And I love talking to you, Steve.
I know. I love talking to you too. And I know some of the feedback we've had is we don't have enough differing of an opinion. So
give us something to fight about.
Yes, and it's not that we don't have differing opinions. It's just we've been talking about stuff we both absolutely love, and we can see each other's side of it. So yeah, we love you guys.
Let's give them that in.
Yep.
Yeah, we love you.
So
we love you so much. Maybe not all of you. Some of you suck. But that's your fault, not mine.
I mean, Poston.
It's not my fault.
Poston sucks. I'll give him that one.
Poston does suck. Poston just sucks so much.
He does. All right.
Thanks everybody for listening.
Yes.
Share it with your friends.
Later, nerds.
Later, nerds.
Today's music is used by permission from the artist Broke for Free. The song is called Something Elated. You can find it on freemusicarchive.org under